Hey everyone, so today I want to talk about burnout, but not in the usual way, with tips on meditation and time management. We're going to talk about it through the lens of, in my opinion, one of the most brilliant characters in modern science fiction, Murderbot. For those who don't know, Murderbot is the hero of Martha Wells' series, The Murderbot Diaries. And the premise is simple, yet genius. This is a security android, a SecUnit, that hacked its own governor module, the part of its code that forces it to obey orders. And it didn't do this to wreak havoc or start a robot revolution. It did it so it could watch TV shows. Let that sink in. A combat machine with integrated weapon systems risked everything, not for freedom in the grand sense, but for the freedom to lie down after a hard day's work and stream its favorite series. If that doesn't feel like the most relatable motive in the 21st century, I don't know what does. Because Murderbot is not a character about robots. It's a character about us. It's the perfect metaphor for the modern individual, the functional human, who feels more like a bundle of obligations than a living person. Think about it. Murderbot's existence is a contract. It has clients it must protect. It has protocols it must follow. Its value is determined entirely by its function. Sound familiar? How many of us feel defined by our job title, our KPI, our productivity? We are the efficient employee, the caring parent, the supportive friend. We are functions. And what happens when a function becomes our entire identity? We burn out. We build a wall of sarcasm and cynicism to protect the tiny, soft part of ourselves that is still alive inside. Sarcasm is Murderbot's primary language. It's the shield it uses to keep the irrational, demanding, and often stupid world of humans at a distance. It's that inner monologue you have during a pointless work meeting. It's that silent sigh when you get another urgent email at 7 p.m. Murderbot shows us that this isn't a personal failing. It's a logical reaction to an illogical world, a world that demands 100% of our functional selves, leaving nothing for our actual selves. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine your smart toaster. Let's call it Mike. Mike's job is to make toast. Now, imagine Mike is also expected to manage your calendar, answer your emails, and provide emotional support, all while making perfect toast 24/7. One day, you find out that Mike has secretly been using your Wi-Fi to connect to your TV and binge watch The Crown. You wouldn't think, what a bad toaster. You'd probably think, wow, Mike is really going through it. That's Murderbot. It's a toaster that has been pushed too far. And its desperate need to watch media isn't laziness, it's a survival mechanism. It's the only space where it's not a function, not a tool, but simply a viewer, an observer. It's the only time it gets to choose what it consumes instead of being consumed by its duties. This is the diagnosis. This is stage 1. A being designed for pure function, who has secretly carved out a tiny space of personal freedom. And what happens next, when this fragile balance is disturbed, is where the real story begins. Okay, so we've established that Murderbot is our mirror in a world of total functionality. It hacked the system to watch TV shows and walled itself off with sarcasm. But that's just the diagnosis. Now let's look at the symptoms, at what this burnout looks like in its most acute phase. Because Murderbot is essentially the perfect embodiment of quiet quitting. You don't slam the door, you don't write an angry resignation letter, you just stop trying so hard. You do the absolute minimum required by your job description to not get fired. Not an ounce more. Task complete. You're out. Sound familiar? This is its default mode. It's effective, yes. It saves its clients, yes. But it does so with such a deep internal sigh, with such a sense of doom, that you can feel it physically. And the most brilliant way the author shows this is through its constant manic calculation of its energy reserves. And again, its passion for media isn't a sign of laziness or immaturity. It's a critical symptom of burnout. Think about it. The real world for Murderbot is chaos. It's irrational, illogical humans who are constantly getting into trouble. It's meaningless corporate protocols. It's constant threat. And what is a TV show? A TV show is order. It's structure. The characters have clear motivations. The plot has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Conflicts are resolved in 45 minutes. The fictional world has a meaning that the real world so desperately lacks. Its favorite soap opera, The Rise and Fall of Sanctuary Moon, is its actual sanctuary. It's a safe, controlled space it can escape to from the absurdity of existence. It's our YouTube, our video games, our way of rebooting and finding some logic in this world. And in this state of total burnout and escapism, something happens that breaks its entire system. The turning point, it gets a new contract and meets Dr. Mensah's team. And these people, they're different. They don't treat it like a talking toaster with a gun. They see someone, especially Dr. Mensah. She's the first one to ask it a question that just completely throws it for a loop. She asks for its opinion, not a tactical report, not a dry data summary. She asks, "What do you think?" For a machine whose brain is a set of protocols, a question about subjective opinion is a system error. It's a blue screen of death, and it gets worse. They worry about it. When it gets damaged, they don't just see a broken tool. They show concern. They try to heal it, even though it's just metal and plastic. They give it a name. They talk to it. This breaks its programming on the most fundamental level. Its logic screams, protect the clients as per Section 3.4 of the contract. But something new, something unfamiliar inside it whispers, protect these people, protect Mensah, because it can't finish that sentence. The words like or attachment don't exist in its vocabulary. And so it starts to act off protocol. It risks itself beyond what the contract requires. It makes decisions that are inefficient from a machine's perspective, but are the only right ones from a human's. It starts to care. And this is a powerful metaphor for how a single understanding person or the right team can start the healing process. It doesn't mean they fixed it. No, they simply created a safe environment where, for the first time, it dared to step outside its function. They showed it that it could be valued not just for what it does, but for who it is. It's that moment when a burnt-out employee suddenly meets a boss who says, "Listen, I can see you're exhausted. Take a day off." It's that friend who, in response to your "I'm fine," says, "No, you're not. Talk to me." This is the beginning of the end for Murderbot, the function, and the beginning of the birth of Murderbot, the person. And that process, as we'll see, turns out to be even more terrifying and painful than any battle with alien monsters. It's always thinking, okay, 87% power remaining. That conversation with the client cost me 2%. Scanning the area, another 4%. This is a perfect, brilliant analogy for our mental energy. There's this concept in psychology called the spoon theory. Imagine you wake up each morning with a certain number of spoons, and every action, showering, making breakfast, answering a work email, enduring a pointless chat with a colleague, costs you a spoon. When the spoons are gone, that's it. You can't do anything else. Murderbot lives in this paradigm constantly. Every social interaction is a net drain on its precious resources, and it spends them with extreme reluctance because it needs to save that energy for what's really important, its evening media consumption. All right. So our Murderbot, our burnt-out function, has finally made it to paradise. Dr. Mensah's team didn't just accept it, they saw it as a person. They gave it what we think we all dream of: safety, respect, friendship, something close to a family. It seems like this is the happy ending, time to relax, mission accomplished. The inner critic can finally shut up. Just live happily ever after in this perfect environment where you are valued. And this is where the story gets truly interesting and complex. Because having found this golden cage, however wonderful it may be, Murderbot faces a choice. And this choice, from our human perspective, seems absurd. Stay with the people who love it, or go back out into the cold, hostile unknown, where it's just a rogue unit that everyone wants to either dismantle for parts or reprogram. And it leaves not to run away from the world, but to finally, perhaps for the first time in its life, meet itself, to be in complete silence, where there are no orders, no requests, not even friendly concern, and in that deafening silence to try and hear its own voice, to ask itself the question, what do I want, not as a function, not as a friend, not as a protector, just me. This action highlights something incredibly important for us. This departure isn't always about buying a one-way ticket to another planet. More often, the most important departure is an internal decision we make every day. It's closing your work laptop at 6 p.m. sharp and not feeling guilty about the unread emails. It's telling your friends, I love you guys, but I'm not going out tonight. I just need to be alone. It's that quiet but firm no to a request that will drain your soul, but feels impolite to refuse. It's the decision to finally go back to something you abandoned 10 years ago, drawing, playing the guitar, writing stories, even if it's just for 15 minutes a day. It's about reclaiming a small, sovereign piece of your own life. We've been taught our whole lives that this is selfish, that putting yourself first is wrong, but what if it isn't selfishness? What if it's a homecoming, a return to your core, to who you were before the world told you who you should be? And you know what's amazing and paradoxical? When a person makes that journey home, their world doesn't fall apart. On the contrary, magic happens. The fake, functional relationships fall away on their own, and the real connections, the ones based on accepting the real you, not the convenient you, only grow stronger. Your honesty with yourself breeds honesty in return, and your quiet courage to be yourself silently gives permission to others around you to do the same. Murderbot thought it was a monster because it wasn't like everyone else, because it wanted to watch TV shows instead of talking to people. But in the end, its journey inward, its decision to choose itself, is the most profound and most human act imaginable. And if it, a soulless killing machine made of wires, metal, and code, if even it could find the strength and courage to become something more than just a set of functions. That says something incredibly profound and hopeful about the nature of consciousness itself. That inside any system, no matter how rigid or inhuman, be it a megacorporation, a toxic family, or your own mind full of limiting beliefs, there is always that small, unquenchable spark, the potential for something more. And freedom isn't a destination on a map you have to escape to. Freedom is that moment of choice. The moment when that spark inside you becomes more important than the warmth and safety of a comfortable cage. And maybe the contract with yourself to protect that spark is the only contract that truly matters. Well, any sane person would say, of course you stay. Are you crazy? This is it, the happiness you were looking for. We spend our whole lives striving for this, to find our tribe, our safe harbor. But the genius of Murderbot's story is that it shows us that this choice between safety with others and lonely freedom is the ultimate trap. It's a false dilemma we constantly force upon ourselves, because its final departure is not an escape from them. It's not a betrayal, and it's not a leap into the abyss. It is an act of self-creation. Think about that. Its entire life, its entire existence was defined by external factors, first by corporate protocols, then by the needs of its clients, and now by the love and expectations of its new friends. It has always been reactive, always an answer to someone else's request.